Hi, everybody. I'm Coach Tiffany, and I help people heal their relationship with food and their body. I'm also the creator of the food attachment model and the quiz food attachment style, which you can find at coachtiffanyRN.com/quiz. Today, we're going to be talking about diet culture being a cult. So diet culture is really our systems and our cultural values and beliefs that value thinness and elevate thinness above all else. And so it gives the messaging that thinness equals and virtue. And so people are morally superior if they are thin. And it equates your value and your worth with being thin. And so it causes people to try to control and manage their bodies so that they might hit this thin ideal, this kind of beauty standard. So there's a few books that I would recommend. One is Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings, talks about that diet culture, how diet culture came to be, and that it has its roots in white supremacy and racism. And then The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor, who talks about the ladder of bodily hierarchy and how we're all kind of trying to get to that place of being at the top. And then The Beauty Redefined, which kind of talks about our value and our worth is not tied to how we look, that our body is good regardless of its appearance. All right, so is diet culture a cult? Are diets culty? So I was actually listening to, I don't remember the name of the podcast now. Oh, a little culty, something like that. And a friend of mine actually told me about it, and she was saying, like, I think diets are actually a cult. And so I'm checking out the Boyd cult scale here. And so there's 10 factors. First one is information control. So to what degree are followers not allowed to read materials regarded as group scripture? And I wouldn't say that people aren't allowed to, but diet culture has definitely influenced the literature that's out there. Even the science, even the research that's done is oftentimes influenced by diet culture. So, research around food addiction, for example, is often self-reported binge, type behavior, right? And it's not controlled for whether restriction is happening, and restriction definitely causes an increased preoccupation with food and binge type behavior. It's not accounting for the fact that we've all been instilled that if we eat beyond fullness, that's considered like a binge, that there's something wrong with us, that's bad, right? So it definitely has influenced the literature that's out there. And it's pervasive in what the media that we consume. All right, devotion to the leader. To what degree does the group encourage love and devotion to the leader of the group? And I wouldn't say there's a specific leader. It's more love and devotion to this idea of health and thinness and looking a certain way, right? Dependence. So to what degree is the follower's behavior specified and directed towards the doctrine and the leader commandments so that the guides follows decision, that this guides the follower's decision. And so the doctrine of, thinness is valued above all else, I would say definitely guides people's decisions. And diets actually inherently cause this dependence, because you go on a diet and it lowers your metabolism, it lowers your muscle mass, and it increases your preoccupation with food, so that you will likely, it basically tells your body you're in a famine, right? So you'll likely then have this pendulum swing and eat in a way that feels out of control, making you feel like there's something wrong with you and need to go back on a diet. So it definitely creates this dependence. Coercion. To what degree are followers manipulated to enter the group and to remain in the group by instilling fear, shame, or guilt, by humiliation or public embarrassment, threats, or emotional blackmail? I would say that so this is where anti-fat bias comes in. So people are absolutely shamed and humiliated for being in larger bodies and for not, quote, trying, right? For giving up on themselves, for letting themselves go. For eating in a way that we would call like being, I'm not sure what the right word is, but gluttonous, right? And so I would absolutely say that coercion is part of this. You are ostracized from the group if you don't look a certain way, or that if you're not at least trying to pursue looking a certain way. Mystification. To what degree do followers learn a special language and interpretation of symbols that creates an alternate mindset from which they view reality? So absolutely, all these diets, like you have to count calories, you have to use certain words, you have to do these check-ins, right? And so I would say there's absolutely like a special language that goes along with dieting, and it shifts your mindset. So I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with that literally can't stop counting calories because all they have to do is glance at something and they know exactly how many calories or how many points are in that food, right? Disassociation. To what degree are followers asked to remain in an altered state of awareness outside of their grounded state of awareness, affecting their ability to function normally in their personalities? Dieting actually increases or decreases your ability to be attuned to your body, increase compartmentalization, disassociation. Basically, we're asking you to disregard your hunger signals, which is absolutely a part of survival, right? So we're asking you to restrict and ignore, push away the signals that your body is giving you. A lot of times diets are also asking you to exercise on top of that while you're already in a calorie deficit. And so in addition to that, you are asked to push past the point of exhaustion. So I would say it absolutely increases disassociation. All right. And it's also asking you to disassociate from yourself in the sense that it's asking you to say, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. Again, kind of increasing that attachment with yourself, that rupture in the attachment with yourself by saying, there's something bad and wrong about me, rather than saying there's something bad or wrong about this messaging that my value is tied to my worth, or my value and my worth are tied to my appearance, right? So disassociating from yourself, creating a self-hatred and self-loathing and shame. Identification. To what degree do followers identify themselves with an element of the superconscious mind and detach from the identification with their ego and self? So we kind of become these sheep, right? This herd of sheep that's like mindlessly following. We got to count the calories. We have to, do the list of foods that they're saying to do. I don't know how many of you have heard of Food Acts Anonymous or Bright Line Eating. I had a client who did this style of dieting prior to working with me, and they literally had to eat exactly 6 ounces of raw vegetables and exactly 6 ounces of cooked vegetables, regardless of how hungry they were, regardless of how sick they were. They had to follow these things to the letter. They had to ask their sponsor. They had to send pictures of themselves to their sponsor. They had, and the sponsor would tell them whether they were eating the right amount of food or if they needed to cut back on carbs even further or add more carbs in. They had to call their sponsor every day. And I would say that's absolutely in this big kind of group think, rather than in really hearing and honoring yourself and what your body is telling you. Isolation. To what degree does a group cut followers from relating to family and friends outside of the group and limit contact with society outside the group? I don't think it so much does this because the majority of people are bought into this cult. And so, if you are dieting, you're actually considered to be kind of part of the group. But that being said, if you reject dieting, if you don't value thinness, you are ostracized and kind of isolated and not accepted. Unfortunately, when we're not accepted, it's like being banished. I always think of Romeo and Juliet, banished. So if you're banished, if you are not loved and accepted and welcomed into the group, then that's like a survival threat, because we're meant to be kind of like herd animals. And in order to survive, we used to have to be around people. Now, of course, you can order all your groceries online. They'll drop them at your front door. You don't actually have to see another human being if you don't want to. But people don't live as long if they don't have that social connection and support, not to mention quality of life. So I would say, yeah, absolutely. If you choose to reject diet culture, you will be isolated in some ways. I've actually had to work really hard to find a community and people who aren't caught up in that mindset. All right, cognitive restructuring. To what degree does indoctrination from the group change followers' beliefs about themselves and their relationship with other people, their moral values, and their cosmological view of the world? So I would say it does create cognitive restructuring. Silo George was in the podcast Do No Harm and talked about this as an invasive species. So the messaging that you're valuing your worth is tied to your appearance, that thin is better, that there's something wrong with you if you eat, a certain amount of food or look a certain way. Or even if you use food to soothe, that's actually really normal and doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. But we are given all of these messages and it's completely pervasive and it's up in all of our nooks and crannies, right? And so I would say it absolutely changes the wiring in your brain to tell you that your value and your worth is tied to how you look and that you are not enough as you are, and increases shame. So yeah, I think it really does change your belief about yourself and your relationship with other people. All right, nexus of motivation. To what degree do followers' goals and dreams shift from a personal focus to a spiritual focus? So this is very, much about like religion. So that the personal goals are postponed or abandoned altogether in favor of spiritual guiding aspirations and the group mission. So I would say absolutely it causes people to postpone personal goals. I know people who say they spend like 80% of the time thinking about food, body, that most of their mental and emotional energy goes towards, controlling and managing their body, thinking about what they should and shouldn't eat. And so if you are spending that much of your mental and emotional energy on food in your body, there's no way that it isn't interrupting your personal goals and aspirations. I know that for me, when I first had this shift and really healed and had all of this peace and ease, it was like, I didn't even know what to do with myself. I actually started creating like playlists. I dove into learning, how to become an motivating, certified professional. I ultimately, created this business and am now writing a book. I have had a lot more energy for my love life, for sex and pleasure in my life, for fun and joy. There are so many things I missed out on. I now travel cautiously, of course, during the pandemic, but it has freed me up to do so much in my life, to be so much richer and more fulfilling. So yeah, absolutely. It shifts your motivation to focusing on changing yourself, to trying to contort yourself, controlling and managing, instead of loving it, accepting yourself, and doing the things you really want to do. So feel free to email me if you have questions, Tiffany@CoachTiffany.com, and reach out if you need support. If you are spending a lot of your mental and emotional energy on this, if you feel like you're stuck in the cult of diet culture and you want to break free, I can support you. Thanks so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day.